Welcome to DGT Live and welcome back for another Fear the Walking Dead spoiler review. Woo! Wow, got choked up there. Fear the Walking Dead spoiler review. This one is for Season 4, Episode 5, Laura. This episode is a kind of self-contained bottleneck episode, if you will, or if you won't, or Miss Jackson if you're nasty. This one is all about John the Gunslinger and about Naomi, better known as Laura, which, as you know, that moniker was given by our favorite gunslinger. So I am doing this live. I'm going to pull up the chat real quick, just in case I have anyone poking in here. Not expecting to, didn't announce this or anything. This is just going to be a quick spoiler review by myself again. But yeah, this episode, I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to give this one shit. And I thought it was fantastic. I loved this episode. This might be my second or third favorite episode of the series. There's only been 5 episodes, so that's not saying a lot. I would probably say that the premiere of this season of Fear is probably still holds that title as being my favorite episode of Fear the Walking Dead of all time, in my opinion. But this one was really, really great. I don't know where it falls as far as, the grand scheme of things, where it falls as far as my favorites go, but it is definitely that. It is almost like a self-contained mini, post-apocalyptic movie all on itself. And, Fear the Walking Dead and regular Walking Dead, especially in season 7 for regular Walking Dead, got a lot of shit for kind of doing these bottleneck episodes. But this was such a nice spot, like especially coming out, and this is going to be full spoilers, final warning, coming off of the emotion that John lets out at the end of episode 4, when Alicia does tell John that Naomi, as John knows her as Laura, did die in the diamond, or something to do with the diamond with that storyline. So it is nice to kind of go back and again, I stated that I didn't want this to be the season of flashbacks, but this one worked for me because not only was it such a cool self-contained episode, but it was also done in a way that, it's fleshing out the new characters. And that's something I don't need to flesh out Madison and Nick, especially Nick, because at this point, it sounds harsh, but there's no future for Nick. So it's nice to see that someone as compelling and as riveting as a character as John, that we get to see that backstory. We do get to see, Laura's backstory as well a little bit, but not really. We got a little bit of before she met up with Madison's group, the Clark family, but we really didn't get that much more because she is that closed off. We did get a nice nugget, and we'll kind of get into that later, and which is like blowing out, drawing comparisons to another regular Walking Dead character, which I can't wholeheartedly disagree with. But let's start kind of at the beginning. So they it's just kind of a day in the life of a post-apocalyptic gunslinger. I loved it. He's playing Scrabble by himself. He's doing his thing. He kind of makes his coffee, cooks his breakfast, sits out on the porch every day. Every once in a while, he'll get a visitor in the form of a zombie, which he just swiftly kind of takes care of. And I like how that little sub-story kind of ratchets up throughout the episode. And I thought that was handled really well. I thought it was really cool. Excuse me. That they're literally just kind of trickling in, and it's almost a metaphor for John, where it's just like, I have everything kind of set up and how I like it, and I have my routine, although lonely. But these zombies, these walkers, start trickling in from the river. Trouble is trickling in for John, and his life is forever changed because the very next time that something does wash up on his beach, on his little riverside waterfront property, it is Naomi, or Laura, excuse me. And he almost takes care of her, but he doesn't. He sees that she's living. He brings her in. Jenna Elfman is very happy that happens. And I gotta say, I don't know, I didn't like IMDb here or anything, or Wikipedia Jenna Elfman, but she's gotta be over, at least late 40s to 50s plus. And I have to say that she looks pretty good. She even has the 6-pack going on still, and and that's pretty impressive. Jenna Elfman, I remember her from Can't Hardly Wait back in the day when she's kind of like that stripper angel, and it definitely does look like there is a little tread on those tires, but for the most part, she does look pretty good, especially for her age. And that's where you could tell that John's kind of a squeamish character, and she asked him to kind of stitch her up. That kind of reminded me of yeah, Jack and Kate from Lost a little bit. I got that kind of vibe from them. But she is very closed off. He's trying to offer her things. She's declining. She's very standoffish, as she has been with the Clark family. But she kind of sees that she needs to be nursed back to health because she would be bleeding out if it wasn't for him, directing him how to stitch her up. And that comes out, and she was a nurse, and she does feel very happy that her profession before, the shit hit the fan, or the entrails hit the fan rather, that she is still useful in this kind of environment, even though, I've yelled to the mountaintops. It's like every time someone finds anyone out in the wasteland, the two people that you're going to run across in a month are Saeed or whatever, and now her. And you always find a doctor, you always find the nurse, you always find exactly what you need in people. Because we got to move the storyline around. More often than not, you're going to find some ex junkie or something trying to steal your Lunchable. But you know what? He hit the jackpot. He found a kind of cougarish, attractive older lady that can stitch herself up or direct you how to. So that was, it's convenient and good. And I like the Scrabble thing before she shows up. He's screaming. We get to see the genesis of the platypus thing, because he does like his P words. But throughout the episode, she does kind of warm up a little bit, although she very much states, like Morgan is stating to his new compadres, that once I'm healed up, I'm gone, I'm done, I got to move on. I'm not staying here, so stop making me so comfortable. Thanks for giving me the bed, but it's still not going to entice me to ultimately move on from this. And it's just like, I guess when you're suffering from that kind of PTSD in that kind of environment, and later we find out kind of what happens to her. No gory details yet. But you don't want to, when something is too good to be true, it probably is, like, Woodbury turned out to be, or maybe the Saviors on paper makes it look like it's a swell place to be in the sanctuary, but you could obviously see that it's not. So it's either too good to be true, or it's too good, and that in this environment and in this universe, all good things come to a very bloody end. So you can't fault people for having these kind of these standoffish emotions, and it is more, and I know it's kind of telling a story narrative because it is a TV show, but I do kind of feel like it is genuine, and that is how people would act. And you can see where he's coming from too. Even though John is a larger than life gunslinging character, he does kind of exposition tell why. He did do these kind of rodeo things in his night job, on his weekend job. His passion project, was kind of entertaining as a cowboy for kids. But you can see why he is the way he is too. If he were to take a job like that, it definitely means he's a people person and an entertainer, and he would want to be around people. And his day job, he did reaffirm that he was a cop. He was kind of a sheriff. So that was nice and interesting. So you got, if you're going to be washed up in anywhere in the zombie apocalypse, you want to wash up on John's doorstep, because you got your nurse and you got your sheriff. What else do you need? I mean, that's pretty much it. But, there has to be some kind of MacGuffin. It can't just be a day-to-day, even though, it's movie time all the time at John's place, which is cool. And I like that he still signs out his movies. I think he returned them too. He returned some so you could get some more. It's just these, habits that you miss. Although even in the post-apocalyptic world, there's no movie theater, or no movie stores, no Blockbusters anyway. So that was more unbelievable that there was a video store than being set in the zombie apocalypse, unfortunately. But there had to be some kind of MacGuffin to kind of take the characters out of their safe zone, out of their environment. We see that there's more and more walkers kind of washing up on the shore, and like I said before, it just kind of ratchets up into to seeing why. They take a nice little notebook style canoe ride down the way, which is a kind of a cool moment when we had the one walker drop and she was about to take care of it. And he just, nope, he just kind of pushed it aside. No, thanks, buddy. Send you adrift. He has no problem. John has no problem. It looks like he has some issues with being squeamish when it comes to people, but as far as killing the dead goes, he doesn't have any emotional attachment to him, but it doesn't look like he goes out of his way to kill them until a scene kind of later on, and then he kind of goes overkill beast mode, Weapon X, snickety snickety snarl. That was pretty sweet, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they go to see, outside the video store, they see why the walkers are kind of fallen off the bridge, so to speak. It looks like that SUV that he kind of accused her of driving off there, which she did not, landed in the water, and that's why these walkers keep falling off. And that's something, I don't know, that's probably my one complaint. I'm just kind of going through it, but I only had really one or two things that I didn't like about this episode. It wasn't perfect, even if they weren't in there. These are just nitpicky things. But it's just like, why would the walkers just continuously walk off the bridge? Is it because one walker falls in the water and starts splashing around, so the other ones go and investigate? That's really the only thing I could think of. But they wind up, putting the sheet metal kind of band-aid up on the bridge to stop the flow. Well, and then when after that happens, and we get more movie time and everything, and that's when Laura's character Naomi, whatever you want to call her, confesses to a very sleepy John in the middle of the night that she did lose a child. So at least now we kind of could have assumed that she lost someone, a spouse, her family, probably a child with how intense she acts. But it just kind of confirmed she lost her kid. So okay, so did she lose her kid? Like, she thinks the kid's still out there, or does losing the child, did she watch it happen? I'm interested to kind of peel back the layers to this onion and dive deeper into Laura, because it is kind of a fun character, and there is a lot of comparisons I've heard lately, and I picked it up a little bit to Carol. She is kind of becoming this show's version of Carol, and not in an extreme psychopathic way, but maybe early stages Carol, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be ripped straight from Walking Dead, having that same exact character out there, but it is kind of cool to see that familiarity, kind of see someone like a Carol in there again. I have someone popping in from the chat. Manicave MTG, what's up, bro? I know I'm not even remotely up to date with Fear the Walking Dead, but I figured I'd stop by for a bit and hang. Well, thanks, dude. Thanks for popping in. This is just a quick kind of on my lunch break talk about this episode of Fear. So thank you. Even though you're not cut up, thanks for braving the possible spoilers. But you should definitely catch up on this season and this show, because season 2 is a complete Chardonnay fart, but the rest of them are pretty good. Season 1's great, season 3's phenomenal, and this season is shaping up quite nicely. But getting back to the review, so that's the other. So then we learn John's kind of thing about he's just such this easygoing, even keel kind of guy, even though he is kind of this caricature. I can't talk today, sorry. He is this kind of larger than life persona of being a cowboy in the zombie apocalypse, but for the most part, he's easygoing. He's just there to help. He's just nothing but a big sweet teddy bear, except when you take his gun and don't ask first. That's when John kind of flipped the script. And when they're sitting there, he sees that she had the 6-shooter, the cool, Roland the gunslinger from Dark Tower pistol. Then he immediately starts freaking out, and explains why. But he just flips so fast, and he goes kind of so feral. So when they're in that area, and they're, well, the barrier, basically, to sum it up, the barrier doesn't work. And that was the thing that I was talking about. Why? Okay, so I could get the rationale if the bridge is out and the walkers are just falling off into the water, splashing around. That's going to attract noise. Sure, more walkers will kind of herd up and be dumb and fall off the bridge. But if that thing is sheet metaled up, then what is the reason for any more walkers to even go to that area? If it just looks to them, it just looks like another piece of wall, or it's not like they're not intelligent enough to discern, oh, that is not chain link fence there, that's sheet metal where it should be a fence, we better go huddle up there. I thought that part was pretty stupid. So they do wind up knocking it down because they all for some reason joined up there. And so they have to go back out, and they kill a little group, a good sized group, about 12 walkers. There were some great walker effects in this episode. Damn, there was some good walker effects in this episode. I am so excited and happy that we are not just getting Halloween costume looking zombies from Fear anymore. We are getting full on Greg Nicotero looking zombies on this show, which I am just so stoked for. So they have really good battle on the bridge, so to speak, and they pull up that Jeep to kind of, now it's the new barricade. Okay, so the chain link fence went out when the car drove through it, and then sheet metal's not working, so now we're just going to put a car there. And then we got to see John really freak out when this zombie with it looked like a machete poking out of its chest kind of went up there and broke through it had to be a Jeep, a soft top Jeep, right? It's just like, man, talk about a TV show, but a TV show moment rather. But whatever, it was really cool. It winds up busting through, almost scratches, almost eats. It probably was scratching the hell out of John, just not on his skin. Almost takes a bite out of him, and then just goes nuts because she's screaming at him to just shoot the goddamn thing. He doesn't do it. He goes full on Hannibal Lecter, like Chucky style, and just stabs the shit out of this walker, where it's just like he's all the way down in the car leaning down. She's up. He's hitting this thing so fast and furious that she's getting a bloodbath. That was just crazy. So there is that in him. There is this feralness to John, and that's going to be interesting to see that pop up again, because it's going to. I don't think that's just going to be a one of where he just kind of loses his shit. But I like it. I like that there's another layer. You can't just be, it is funny to have this nice kooky, teddy bear also happens to be a gunslinger character in Fear the Walking Dead, but it is nice to see that he could also flip that switch and really tear someone's asshole out. But yeah, and that's another thing. It's just like, okay, so that should have worked, right? It's like they're not going to move a Jeep, but they do. They push all these half-decayed walkers herd up again and push a Jeep off the thing, and now you have a little mini herd, which it almost looked like I liked it. It almost looked like a little mini herd of like from the end of season 2 of regular Walking Dead, like the farm. I don't know why I got that vibe, but they're all just kind of washed up, and I like how John kind of dug that trench, so they're all falling in there. And then I mean, I don't know if I would agree with this. Like, who would have thought that, maybe if you didn't make noise, you didn't jump up and just go straight out and attack them, that maybe they just would have either float or, washed down the river or, past the house or something like that. You could kind of pick them off as they're leaving, if at all. I didn't know if the best idea was to just go gung-ho with Laura in there with a shovel and an axe. I don't know. That was another thing that kind of took me out of it. The decision making, and he wanted to protect her, and at that point, it looked like he didn't care what happened to him. Maybe he was just kind of self-sacrificing so she could get away. But whatever. It made for a cool, epic scene, and that's. I'm not taking it away from that. I'm not taking anything away from the scene itself, because it was cool. It was filled with a lot of tension, especially when they're all kind of falling into the ditch with our heroes, so to speak, especially when they're all falling on Laura. And then he just says, fuck it, the cat's out of the bag, she's gonna die, and then just full on goes like right in the middle, like bead shots on every single one of them. And it was just fantastic. She was even holding one in front of her face. That one took him a second. If he would have just like plow, that would have been a little unrealistic, especially giving his backstory of missing. Like he basically said there was someone robbing somewhere, and he tried to shoot him in the leg, but they turned around. So maybe that paints, maybe that's why he's just so obsessed with being the kind of like shot he is with that kind of a gun. But he just completely eagle eyes that thing on top of her, and it's just fantastic. Then he gets real standoffish, and then he confesses his love for her, and then before that happens, they're kind of back and forth, and they're sitting and they're playing Scrabble together, and everything is turning out so well. But in this show and in Walking Dead and all these TV shows, nothing, like I said, stays great forever, because there has to be some kind of conflict to move the narrative. So that happens. He confesses his love after she kind of breaks him down. And then the next day, those nice designer boots that he had for her that were just sitting on the porch, they wind up gone. She winds up gone. And that's when he kind of left his little sanctuary to go out and look for her. Episode ends with a nice little back and forth between him and Morgan, where John was just kind of having a weak spot, and then Morgan is the one that's now being the emotional support, and bringing him out of it. And you could do so much with Morgan. Morgan does Farrell so well. Morgan does your brother, your best friend, motivational speaker, and then he does complete nut job well as also. Lenny James is just fantastic, but sitting next to John, he's equally as good. So this is gonna be a nice Lethal Weapon buddy cop, hopefully dynamic, that I thought was gonna be Morgan and Nick, but now it's gonna be the Morgan the samurai and John the gunslinger, and that's a show in itself. Who cares about the rest of the cast, right? Well, I do, and I am interested to see what's going on with Madison, and I do kind of want to see. Last week's episode was more of a Fear the Walking Dead type episode, because we did get some more backstory for Alicia Strand, and Luciana. This was a full-on new cast, new style Fear episode, and it was very reminiscent to The Walking Dead. It had that same Walking Dead tone to it, where they're going and they're foraging, and it also had just the Walker effects. Everything kind of felt like the farm season, season 2 of Walking Dead, kind of summed up really nicely in a nice package for Fear of the Walking Dead. So just absolutely incredible episode. I know a lot of fans are giving it shit just because it was a bottleneck episode, and you do want to see what all these other characters are doing. But this, John is just oozing with personality and just charisma, and and he did kind of bring up Jenna Elfman's character. I am now more intrigued with what happened to her and what's going on. Speculative wise, I don't think she's dead. I think she's just fine. But if you are gonna, at this point, this is the only time that I thought that maybe she lives, but maybe Madison is dead and gone. Maybe you do bring in these big name kind of actors. Jenna Elfman's not huge, but a bigger name character like Jenna Elfman to kind of swoop into that main cast role for the long run. Maybe she isn't dead. Maybe all these good characters and all this good backstory is going to be the thing that kind of softens the blow when we're almost completely out of Fear the Walking Dead characters. I still maintain that I think that at the end of this season, they might cancel it, or maybe the next one, and they're going to absorb whatever they have left back into regular Walking Dead, with Morgan leading the charge. But just for this episode, Laura, I'm going to give this one a good 4.2. 4.25. I'll even go a little bit higher. Love the hell out of this episode. I thought it was great. I thought it was a good self-contained movie, kind of a show, where it had a good, it had conflict resolution. Everything was in a nice, neat package. And I just really liked it. I really liked it as a standalone. I really liked it as a overall connective episode as well. It was almost so self-contained in its own thing as the last season of Fear had that Alicia episode down in the bunker, which is probably my favorite episode of Fear the Walking Dead. If go back and watch that when everyone's down from Broken Jar camp or whatever, and it's just such a phenomenal episode. But it is that this was special. This was nice and self-contained. And right before we let you go, Man Cave MTG says, no worries about spoilers, man. From all the recreational things I did when I was younger, I will forget by the end of the week. Nice. I can neither condone nor support your decision, sir, but mostly support. And then also, I guess my only question would be this: is it cool with Morgan there or no? Fuck yes. It is absolutely phenomenal that Morgan's there. I think that he has elevated this show 100%, and you're going to need them if you're going to be killing off all of your main characters, kind of like you are. But that's all the time I have. What did you, ladies and gentlemen, deadheads, think about the episode Laura for Fear the Walking Dead? We're already barreling towards mid-season finale, unfortunately, but it is what it is. I love this episode. Comment, let me know if you like this episode. Share this video to let the other deadheads know that I and the other folks here on They Said We Said and DGT Live and all that are around talking high quality, I guess, high class, criticism of these shows. Share it around and let us officially join the larger herd of the YouTube community. So for you, if you want to find me, I am on Twitter at Orzobdun. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at John Dunning. So until next time, deadheads, spread the disease.